What's going on, Colts Nation? Today, I want to talk about Gus Bradley in the defense, and I want to talk about another defensive coordinator, somebody that just resigned from their position yesterday. That's Wink Martindale, okay? Because what I was really looking for was just who was going to either get fired or just like Wink does, who's going to want to go to a different position. So they resign their position. I was waiting to see who's out there that could really go ahead and replace Gus Bradley. And first, I want to go through kind of some of these defensive numbers for Gus Bradley's defense in 2023, starting with the completion percentage. The Colts defense this year was 15th in the NFL in terms of opponents' completion percentage of 65.1. So middle of the pack. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the fact that, the corners were injured for a lot of the year. They're also young. Even, our starters were rookies. So there's a lot going on there in the secondary. We knew it wasn't going to be pretty this year. And like I mentioned, the completion percentage, they were 15th in the NFL this year. Yards per attempt was 21st in the NFL at 7.3 yards per attempt. And that there's a number that's just hard to live with, man. When you start going over 7, that's when you're starting to get to a point where, like, your leaky defense, anything and everything is going to be getting caught on you. And we saw that a lot, right? Gus Bradley's defense, a lot of his defense, there's a lot of times where they're playing back. Especially in crucial situations where you don't want a team to just pick up an easy 5 yards and make it 3rd and 2. But there were plenty of those situations, just game after game after game after game with Gus Bradley's defense, where they're getting easy yards because we're playing soft coverage. So all they have to do is just a soft curl right back to the ball, hurry up, get the ball out, pick up easy yards. A lot of teams did that this season. That's why you see a 7.3 average. Now, one area in terms of the pass game that the Colts defense was good in was being able to get interceptions. They had 15 interceptions this year, and they were 5th in sacks with 51. And I believe the Colts ended up finishing as the only team in the NFL with 4 players that had at least 7 sacks. So the pass rush was able to get home. The thing about the pass rush this year is that it wasn't consistent, right? You'd have games where the Colts defense is getting 6 sacks in a couple different games, 5 sacks. There were different games where they were just getting a lot of sacks. And then there are plenty of games this season where they didn't get a single sack, where they weren't really getting any kind of consistent pressure. And that's really what the Colts lack on the defensive side, at least in terms of the pass rush, is the fact that they can't get a consistent, game after game, rep after rep, trying to put pressure on the quarterback. Like, we just don't have one of those game-changing guys. Samson Ebicom did really well in his first year with the Colts. We have him for another 2 seasons. That's great to have him on that side. But Kwity Paye just hasn't really developed into the player that we were all hoping he would be able to after he was drafted in the 1st round. And at some point, the Colts have to be able to get a game-changing edge rusher. And if they don't have that guy, then they need to do something defensively that's going to help put pressure on the quarterback. And that's one thing that attracts me to a guy like Wink Martindale. I've always liked Wink Martindale. I think his style of defense and the fact that, like, Wink Martindale is a lot like Bruce Arians in terms of the fact the way they run their offense versus their defense. It's like, risk it for the biscuit. And I love that, right? Like, yes, Wink Martindale's defense, like, if you're not getting things right and you're not getting home, it's a dangerous defense because people will be able to put points up on you. But at least Wink Martindale does different things, and he'll switch his defense and he'll adjust things as he needs to. He just needs to have the personnel. We saw that plenty when he was in Baltimore. Okay, and with the personnel that the Colts have, like the Giants, they were one of the worst teams in the NFL in terms of stopping the run. Whereas the Colts, they were 11th in the NFL at 4.1 yards per carry. When Grover Stewart played in those games, they were a top 10 unit. And with that, like, that's what I'm talking about with personnel. If you have the right personnel in Wink Martindale's defense, then it can be elite, right? With as aggressive as Wink Martindale gets in his defense and the fact that he'll send pressure from any which way. It's, again, high risk, high reward. You're either going to get to the quarterback or the quarterback's going to be able to move, make something happen. And the defense where you're sending blitzes, he's going to be able to gap you all day. But when you have guys like Grover Stewart, who needs to be re-signed, and DeForest Buckner in the middle, right, and Zaire, EJ Speed at the linebacker level, like, you have the run game all locked up, right? You just got to have your guys be disciplined in what they do, and those guys are generally disciplined in what they're able to do. And just a little known fact here, something you probably didn't know, the Giants defense, for anything that you heard about them this year, that you saw from them this year, or that you might think about them from this year, the Giants defense led the NFL in creating turnovers. Okay, the Colts end up 16th in the NFL with 24 total turnovers, 15 interceptions, 9 fumble recoveries. The Giants were the number one team in the NFL in Wink Martindale's defense. And I think it's fair to say, like, not everybody pays attention to the Giants. The Giants defense was getting better as the year went on, right? And that Giants defense, it's not like they have the greatest personnel in the world. There were definitely moments where they were getting gashed, but as the season went on, they improved. So it's time in Wink's system. You get the right guys with some time in Wink's system, and it's going to dominate. Again, we saw plenty of that when he was in Baltimore, where he had all the personnel he could ever want. And I think that the Colts and what the Colts have, right, the guys that they already have signed, guys that could be re-signed, right, Kenny Moore, Grover Stewart, and the guys that were just drafted, right? You think about how young this secondary is, but you put those guys in a Wink Martindale defense and you start making them play more man defense, yeah, it gets a little more dangerous. But those guys that are long and linky and can make plays on the ball, they're going to have more opportunities to make those plays on the ball. They're going to have more opportunities to go and create those turnovers because Wink Martindale is going to send guys. Again, this is Wink Martindale will send blitzes. Okay, and it's not just, oh, let's just keep sending, the same guys just because. Like, if he's sending a guy from a certain angle, there's a reason he wants to send that guy from that angle at that moment. Okay, I very much enjoy Wink Martindale. I think a lot of Colts fans would, and I think that's change that needs to be explored, right? The dangerous thing is if you fire Gus Bradley and you end up not being the team that gets Wink Martindale, then what do you do in the backup? Who else do you go get and try to fill that spot? That's what we're really looking at. That's what I'm trying to look into, is who could fill the spot for Gus Bradley if he's not there. Right now, the answer to that got very easy when Wink Martindale resigned from the New York Giants. So that's who I'm hoping ends up as a Colts defensive coordinator right now. I'd like to know your opinion on this subject. You let me know what you're thinking down in the comments section. And of course, we're going to have content every single day. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and have those notifications turned on so that you get notified anytime a video comes out. And with that said, as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.